Hey everyone, it's Ganji. Hope you're all doing great. Let's enjoy some Hero Wars today. In this video, we're taking a look at the brand new hero, Electra von Grave. And I'll say this right at the beginning. Electra is stronger than she looks. At first glance, you might think maybe she's more of a support type hero, but once you actually use her, you'll notice she has the kind of impact that can change the entire flow of a battle. So today, I'll be breaking down what makes Electra strong, which allies she works well with, and how to use her effectively in real matches. If you're unsure about leveling her, definitely watch this video until the end. Alright, let's get started. Alright, let's start by looking at Electra's position and lineup placement. Electra is a frontline tank hero, and her main stat is strength, so she's the type of hero who holds the front line while staying durable, basically standing right at the center of the battle. Now, what's really important here is where she stands in the lineup. On the web version, a common frontline order for tanks is Chaba, Aurora, Cleaver, Corvus. But with Electra added to the game, she gets placed between Cleaver and Corvus. So the formation becomes Chaba, Aurora, Cleaver, Electra, Corvus, which means, in terms of overall positioning among all heroes, Electra stands fourth from the very front. Alright, from here, let's break down Electra's abilities and how her stats interact with them. The first thing we need to understand is what her skills scale with. Electra's skills are affected mainly by her HP and her magic attack. Because of that, the way you level up her artifacts becomes extremely important. So, let's go through them one by one. Artifact 1 Weapon. Electra's first artifact provides a magic attack boost to the entire team. This pairs especially well with Skill 1. Skill 1 scales based on Electra's HP and magic attack, so by upgrading Artifact 1 you can increase the power of Electra's own skills and your entire team's magic damage output, meaning you're boosting both Electra and your magic-based allies at the same time. Artifact 2, Roll Buff. Her second artifact increases your team's armor and magic defense. This works nicely with Skill 4. Skill 4 is a passive that lets Electra grow stronger as the battle goes on. So, by strengthening Artifact 2, your team becomes tankier, the fight lasts longer, and Electra has more time to ramp up and really make an impact. It creates a very healthy cycle. More defense, longer fights, stronger Electra. Artifact 3, Stat Artifact. Her third artifact increases strength. When strength goes up, her base HP increases. And since Electra's skills scale from her HP, upgrading Artifact 3 directly amplifies the power of her abilities. In other words, more strength, more HP, stronger skill effects. Alright, let's start by covering the key points of Skill 1. Electra's Skill 1 creates a shield whose strength scales based on her HP. On top of that, it also deals magic damage in a cone to enemies in front of her, so she can protect herself while applying pressure to the enemy front line at the same time. In other words, this is a defend while attacking type of area skill. And this is where Skill 4 becomes important. Skill 4 gives Electra a large boost to her HP at the start of the battle. Because of that, the HP value you see on the pre-battle screen is not the HP she actually fights with once the battle begins. Let's look at the numbers. These calculations assume my math is correct. Before the battle starts, Electra's HP is 1,009,562. But once the battle begins, Skill 4 activates and boosts her HP. If you're using a standard banner, armor, magic defense, HP type, and no pet, her HP increases to 3,172,205. And if the banner is fully upgraded and you pair her with Oliver, her HP goes up to 4,126,023. This HP increase directly affects the shield amount of Skill 1. For example, with pre-battle HP, Skill 1's shield is 246,121, but in the fully optimized setup, Skill 1's shield increases to 933,784. So here's the key takeaway. Electra's Skill 1 becomes significantly stronger as her HP increases. Both the shield and the damage scale the other, so to get the most out of Electra, these three are extremely important. 1. Skill 4's HP boost. 2. Artifact 3. Strength HP increase. 3. Pet Oliver for even more HP scaling. These three combined are what really unlock her true power. Next, let's move on to Skill 2. Skill 2 deals area magic damage and then heals Electra based on the amount of damage she dealt. To be specific, the skill deals 54,509 magic damage in an area. And with her base stats before battle, she heals 410% of the damage dealt. Now here's the important part. Because Electra's Skill 4 massively increases her HP at the start of battle, her actual healing during real combat is even higher than what the pre-battle stats show. So let's take a look at an actual battle log. In this situation, Electra deals 54,509 damage to Galahad, Tristan, and Leon. As a result, she heals 475,240 HP 3 times. So the more enemies she hits, the more HP she recovers. Skill 2 is not a simple defensive skill. It's a survive by attacking type of sustain skill. Now, let's talk about Synergy. Electra has low magic penetration, which means that sometimes her damage doesn't break through enemy tanks very effectively. That's where Orion comes in. Orion provides a magic penetration buff, and once Electra receives that buff, her area damage and self-healing immediately become battle-ready and much more effective. Now, let's talk about Skill 3. Skill 3 makes Electra take about 40% of the damage that her allies receive, but only for 5 seconds. However, when you actually look at the battle log, it's almost impossible to tell which damage she's taking from this skill. It doesn't show clean numbers, it doesn't leave obvious traces in the logs, and you end up thinking, is this thing even working? Yeah, I know, same. But here's the conclusion. Skill 1 is the real star of her kit. Skill 1 is what controls the flow of the battle. Skills 2 and 3 exist to support and maintain the advantages that Skill 1 creates. So if you just remember, Skill 1 equals main power. Skill 2 and Skill 3 keep that power going. You're good. Alright, now let's move on to heroes that pair well with Electra. Alright, let's talk about heroes that pair well with Electra. The hero that works best with her is Orion. And the reason is really simple. Electra has very low magic penetration. Skill 1 and Skill 2 both deal AoE magic damage, but without penetration, that damage just doesn't break through enemy tanks reliably. So when Orion gives your team magic penetration, Electra's AoE damage and her self-healing from Skill 2 suddenly become much more consistent and much more dangerous. Electra sets the pace in the front line, and Orion finishes the job from the back line. They just fit perfectly together. Now for the recommended core lineup. Electra plus Orion's Krista Cascade. This is your base setup. Krista is great at slamming pressure onto the front line with AoE, and Cascade adds continuous area damage, which makes perfect use of the stable front line that Electra creates. Then the last slot depends on the matchup. Lots of debuffs? Sebastian. Wants a longer sustained fight? Martha. Worried about magic reflect? Helios. You can rotate that final slot depending on the enemy. And that flexibility is really strong. Now here's the big point today. You've probably seen this very common lineup recently. Galahad, Leon, Tristan, Sebastian, Lara. The classic hit the front line and blow everything up team. Well, a magic team with Electra in the front line can beat that. And not just barely, it wins cleanly. Sometimes surprisingly easily. Let me be honest here. Ever since Lara got her new skin, the Lara guaranteed wipe comp didn't really have a clear counter. Nobody could confidently say this is the answer, but once I tried Electra in front with a magic core behind her, I was like, oh, this is it. This is literally the answer. So here's the takeaway. Electra isn't just a new tank. She has a very clear and powerful role in the current meta, especially if you've been struggling against Galahad, Leon, Tristan, Sebastian, Lara. I highly recommend trying this. It works, and it works really well. Alright, now let's take a look at Electra on defense. When it comes to defensive lineups, I think there's still a lot of room for testing and improvement. At this point, there isn't really a this is the strongest setup answer yet. For this example, let's look at this team. Electra, Nebula, Orion, Augustus, Dorian, Horus. This is basically the lineup where you replace Dante with Electra, and the attacking side will be Galahad, Leon, Tristan, Sebastian, Lara. This is the very common physical burst frontline comp that's being used a ton right now. So here's the conclusion. Electra on defense does not reliably stop this team. And the reason is simple. Electra is much stronger when she's the one applying pressure and controlling the flow of the fight. On defense, you can't choose when her skills activate, how pressure develops on the front line, or the timing of healing and support. Because of that, the front line often gets pushed back before Electra stabilizes the fight. So against Galahad, Leon, Tristan, Sebastian, Lara, Electra's defensive win rate is low. She's strong on offense. On defense, the meta is still developing. That's the current evaluation. Alright, now let's talk about heroes that counter Electra, the ones you really need to watch out for. These are the main threats: Isaac, Ishmael, Krista. Any hero who can use Axel as a patron, paired with Aiden. Let's go through them one by one. Isaac. He is basically the natural predator of magic teams. His magic charge deals retaliation damage, and he suppresses magic power overall. Since Electra relies heavily on AoE magic pressure, this matchup is just not in her favor. Ishmael's skill 2 turns incoming magic damage into misses, which means Electra's skill 1 and skill 2 simply don't land. This is a very tough matchup for Electra. Krista, her skill 4 provides AoE damage reduction to her team. Electra wins by breaking the front line with AoE, and Krista directly stops that win condition. Axel Patron. Aiden. Axel's Patron bonus splits and reduces damage taken, and Aiden adds strong healing support. When these two are together, Electra's AoE damage self-heal control loop becomes a lot less effective. In fact, even something like a low-level Marcus plus Aiden can sometimes hold long enough to outlast Electra teams. If you show this with a real replay, the point becomes a lot clearer. Alright, so that's it for today's look at the new hero, Electra. To summarize, Electra is very strong on offense. With skill 1 at the core, she keeps the front line stable and lets your team control the pace of the fight. Her magic lineup with Orion in particular is extremely powerful, and it can reliably create winning positions even against the very common Galahad, Leon, Tristan, Sebastian, Lara pressure frontline. On the other hand, she's still experimental on defense. There are clear counter heroes, so for now, it's best to think of her as a hero you use proactively on offense. If you already play magic-based teams, or you're looking to strengthen your magic core, Electra is definitely worth investing in. Also, this video is narrated in Japanese, but you can switch the audio track to watch it in English as well. Feel free to use whichever is more comfortable for you. Alright, that's going to do it for today. This has been Ganji, and I'll see you in the next video.